Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross, and we are live here at the BAMM Fall Meeting. KPMG's office is here in Santa Clara, and I am with Rajiv Tadani, KPMG Principal, Global Mobility.
Yes.
How'd I do? Yeah, kind of, sort of? Awesome. Hey, Rajiv, thanks for coming.
Ben, you get an A+ for getting my name right.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. You know, this is only my second ever BAMM event. You know, I've been an East Coast person for most of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't get out here to the left coast much. But every time I do, I'm always super impressed with the caliber of content you put out, just the quality of people. It's just phenomenal. So you want to tell people a little bit about what's going on today?
Yeah, so we're having our quarterly BAMM event here at KPMG. We're obviously proud to be associated with BAMM. Have been for many, many years. We certainly, I'm not saying anything people don't know. BAMM is one of the premier relocation councils across the country.
Some might say the premier.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
I mean, I'm on the board of NTRP, and I love NTRP. Yeah. But you guys really bring a lot of people out. Yeah. And a great mix of corporate folks as well.
Yeah, no, it's always a healthy mix of 50-50. We have about 150 people signed up today. And I'm sure Josh and the BAMM board will be here in a few minutes to share some more details. But it's a great event. We're talking about ESG, which I know is front and center for everyone, especially in the mobility world, because I personally think there's a lot that mobility can contribute to the ESG journey that every company is on. Not just, I think there's a lot of focus on the environment, which, make no mistake, is very, very important. But there is also an element we can play in the S and the G. There's a lot of focus on D&I, which mobility can help in, and then governance and our policies and our practices can also play a huge part. So looking forward to the session. I know there's going to be both some experts on ESG speaking, as well as some corporate clients providing their perspective, which is what makes it really, really interesting. I think to the point you made earlier, I think one of the things BAMM is very, very proud to bring to the table is not just our sponsors and our members, but a healthy mix of corporate attendees, which actively participate and provide their perspectives, which frankly is what brings the whole community together. So really excited, looking forward to the event.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that corporate attendee emphasis that you put on that. I want to understand more about that. We got people checking in right now. Hit that like button. Let everybody know we are live here in Santa Clara at the BAMM Fall Meeting. Get in the comments. I want to know who you are, where you are, what you're up to. If you've got questions for Rajiv or questions about sustainability or comments, I'd really love to hear those, especially from you, Vinny. I see Vinny Valverde out there. Looking great, Rajiv. Doesn't mention me at all, but that's okay, Vinny.
Vinny is a good friend. Vinny, we miss you. I was hoping you'd be here. I know you did something on the East Coast this week.
Yes, I think he might be down. Are you in Florida, Vinny? Let me know. You're at SRC. Vinny's checking in there from sunny Tampa. There you go. Look at that. Heading home after a great SRC event. Yes, they do a nice job down there. I think they're at the one of my favorite hotels, the Don Cesar, right there on St. Pete Beach. Beautiful. Paul Seymour checking in. Hey, everyone, miss everyone at BAMM. Yes, Paul, miss you very much. Richard's checking in there. Greetings all. With autumn slowly arriving in London, I need the show to get my vitamin D. You're funny. Richard, good to hear from you. We got England in the house. This is great. Yeah, you too there, Vinny. Christina checking in from Mexico. We've got Mexico in the house.
Awesome.
Miss my BAMM, folks. It's been way too long. I want to ask you about this. What really brings the corporate folks out? I've sat on the board of NTRP. I've sat on the board of the Detroit, formerly DRRC, now the MIRC, I believe. And that's always been the struggle, is getting that healthy corporate attendance, that mix. What you seem to really unlock that here at BAMM. How do you do it?
I think maybe a little bit of history, right? So BAMM came into being almost 10 years ago, 11 years ago, with the merger of WIPA and BAMM, which were the two relocation councils we had.
Oh, okay. I learned a new acronym today. What were these again? One more time.
So WIPA is Western International Personnel Association.
WIPA.
And BAMM used to be BAMM, which was Bay Area Women in Relocation and Mobility, which then became Bay Area Professionals in Relocation and Mobility. And those two groups combined became BAMM, which is Bay Area Mobility Management, which I'm glad they did because there was a lot of us advocating for those two groups to get together. And clearly it has paid rich dividends for this community. Uh, when I attended my first BAPM event, and I have to thank my friend David Platt, who probably is going to be here later today from Agilent. David Platt roped me in to speak at a BAPM 15, 17 years ago. And I remember showing up to the event just blown away by the great content we had, but the corporate drip mix was not as much. And then I'd certainly been attending WIPA through my friend Eric Halverson from formerly of eBay, now with Benevo, and we saw the challenges. I think what really BAM was able to do under the leadership of the various boards that we've had over the last 11 years is really engage with the corporate community, right? Having some of these very focused folks on our board that represented the corporate community and actually reached out to the corporate community to say, what do you need? What would make BAM more appealing to you? And I think whether it's the round table, whether it's the very heavy focuses on no solicitation, no selling, no hard selling, I think makes it a very safe environment for our corporates to attend and to really learn. I think a lot of our corporates do want to hear from service providers. They don't want to hear a sales pitch. They want to hear what people are bringing new in terms of technology, in terms of the ESG strategy, in terms of policy, etc. So I think creating that environment and creating some well-minded corporate leaders on our board, and I think we've got some incredible leaders from our community that have served on the board, including Billy Ho and Andreas, who are the most recent additions to our board, representing the board. Billy actually read the corporate roundtable today, got some really good feedback about it. It's a good mix. So I think, just making sure that there is there's something in it for everyone, right? Including all of us as service providers, but more importantly, the corporates as well. So just creating that environment that allows great thought leadership, but then also provides everything for everyone.
We got to get Billy on the show today. I ran into him at the truck pull yesterday, and he was like, "I got to get on. So we got to see Billy. He's out there. You have a million people outside right now. It is deep, and everybody's having a great time and socializing right now. What I heard you say, though, just to kind of recap, is get corporate folks on your board. Make sure they're engaged, because sometimes we get corporate folks on boards and we put them on the board, but they don't really have the time necessarily to engage. Make sure you get folks that are willing to really engage, and then provide them content that is relevant to what they're going through. And I guess my next question would be, what are maybe if you get 3 of the hottest things that your corporate contacts are talking about, what are the things that they're just yearning for right now?
Yeah, and maybe if I can take a step back before I get to your question, right? So I know when I joined, I'm currently on the board of BAM as a special advisor, but I've been in multiple roles. But my first entry into BAM in some sort of a leadership role was thanks to William Taylor, who at the time was with Adobe. And I remember William coming to me and saying, "Hey, can you run the content committee for the BAM conference?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm great. I can bring all the great content together."
He said, "I'm great. Yeah, I can totally do this."
And I remember running, organizing 9 sessions. 8 of them were an A+, and then the 9th one was maybe a C-, right?
Oh.
And because, we didn't have the right people engaged in focusing on bringing the right content, right? So it was a great learning for me to say, okay, yeah, I can say we need this content, but somebody needs to deliver it. And to deliver it, we need the right people in the mix to deliver. So I think that was a great learning for me in terms of making sure, like, not just the idea, but the execution of the idea is also good. So I think that is a good reminder for all of us, right? We all have great ideas. I think we're all smart people. We do great jobs for our respective companies, but it's the execution, because this is not a paid gig. It's something that we do because we're passionate about helping the community.
I thought special advisor was a paid position.
I wish, but maybe the check's in the mail. I didn't know about it. So I think that to me really was a great learning, right, in terms of what people were hoping to get, and it's good to have an idea, but you got to execute on that as well. In terms of what seems to be a hot topic these days, I think it's something that I think we saw yesterday a little bit at the truck pull. Ben, this whole we're in this new environment. The new normal is hybrid working, remote working, right? That's front and center for everyone. There are quite a few countries and states that enable it, that allow it, and there are some that are getting really, really strict. about not just the compliance piece of it, but also the policy element of it, right?
Wow.
Are you paying someone Bay Area comp if they're going to
Right.
go and live in Mexico,
Right.
or are you going to pay someone Bay Area comp if they go and live in Florida? I mean, there's a host of issues beyond the compliance issues that is front and center for everyone.
I want to talk about that just for a second, because I think this is one of the most prevalent questions I hear all the time is this remote work policies. And let's talk about the comp for a second. What are you seeing folks do about the compensation? You know, in that exact scenario you described, where people go live in another area, are you seeing their compensation adjusted or not?
So I think it's a mixed bag. I think there are companies that are out there that are making bold pronouncements of people needing to be in an office. There are companies that are making adjustments to comp, or have indicated that if you do move for more than a certain number of months, there will be. There are some companies that are still trying to figure it out. I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, I can tell you from my own portfolio of clients, there are companies that have laid down the rules and are enabling and saying, yeah, you want to go, Ben, you want to go work for 90 days from a beach in Cancun, we'll allow it as long as you meet these 3, 4, 5 conditions.
Right.
And if there's any additional taxes, that's on you and not on the company, right?
Right.
So there is an element of enabling. And then in that spectrum, you also have companies that are saying, I'm not ready to make a decision yet because I do think this will impact my ability to hold on to my talent, given that continues to be a war for talent, at least in the tech world. I'm not willing to let go of our people until I can figure out how to deal with the request for remote and hybrid working.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I want to hear what you think out there. If you're watching this right now, get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button. What are you seeing out there from a remote work policy standpoint? This is a topic we talk about all the time, and honestly, it never gets old to me because there's so many facets to it. I mean, there's the comp thing we just talked about, but also the legality thing. I mean, you just, kind of outlined, we talk about Cancun, right? And I think actually we have Christina from Veracruz, Mexico, tuning in here, and I think she kind of did something similar. But from a legality standpoint, do you think that this favors large companies that have offices in many places versus small companies that don't have entities in other countries or other states?
I think that is the big issue. I think at least in the companies that we are interacting with that are trying to enable this, I think one of the preconditions I said, you're going to meet multiple conditions. One of the preconditions is you can work in a country where we have an operation, we have an entity, right? If you don't have an entity, we're not going to enable it, or we'll enable it for a shorter duration. So I do think it does have an impact, right, on the policy that the company eventually rolls out. If you're a smaller organization with a limited footprint, that is going to have an impact on how much you enable it. But then on the flip side, right, you're fighting for that same talent that the big companies are. So you're going to have to come up with some sort of strategy on how do you allow it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think you're right. I think there's what companies want to do, and then what they feel that they can do right now with the talent situation being what it is. I know we keep talking about looming recession and slowdown and things like this in the economy, and yet our unemployment rate is super low. It's still in the 3s, I believe, and especially with skilled work. But I mean, frankly, all facets, skilled all the way to unskilled, and so companies can't really do maybe what they want to do, right? And in the news lately has been Apple and everything, what's going on there, and so do you see this changing? And if so, when?
I think if there's one positive that's come out of the pandemic is the fact that we don't all need to be in an office. We all don't need to be in front of a computer sitting in an office next to each other. We are able to collaborate virtually. We are able to collaborate in different ways. So I don't think it's ever going to go back to 5 days in the office. Maybe in some industries it will. I think the hybrid model is going to be the more popular one. I think we've always had people that work remotely. I know of a lot of folks that I interact with in our mobility industry that have been remote for as long as I've known them over the last 20 plus years, ranging from someone in Hawaii to someone in the remote part of Nevada, but serving the Bay Area market.
Now, were they hired in?
Yeah.
In that situation?
They were
I think that's another thing too, right? Because here we are, we've been hiring people over the last several years now.
Yeah.
And we hired them in remotely.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a ton of talent that are saying, I live 2 hours away from my office.
Yeah.
And now I got a memo saying we
Saying
got to
you
be
gotta be
in
in.
by,
Yeah.
you know, October 1st or
Yeah.
whatever. And like, I don't know, what am I going to do with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So it is going to be, you are going to require a mix of people being 100% remote, but you have to balance that with a hybrid requirement, right? Yeah. I mean, I come in here 2-3 days a week in our KPMG office in Silicon Valley.
And then Hawaii.
But
the
if
other
I'm
rest of the week.
in on a Monday or a Friday, it's a ghost town. Right?
Yeah.
There's no one here.
Right.
But if I'm here on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's a healthy amount of people here that I collaborate with. And I think that's what we need. I think a lot of that collaboration can be done virtually, but I think there's a lot more. I mean, why would we be having a BAMM event
Right.
in person when we've done it virtually? Because clearly there is a desire, and we saw that at the truck pull yesterday. I mean, people were hugging each other because they've not seen each other in 2 years, right?
Right. There's a magic that happens when you're in person, and you know, I know we have people tuning in here and who aren't in person, but they're giving us their thoughts here. John is saying the magic of the in-person experience. I subscribe to this belief. I really do. Put your comments in there. I want to know what you think. Hit that like button also. Richard, this is the magic you're hearing. Okay. He says there's a door. Is there a door open? It's quite a lot of background noise. It sounds like an office, Richard. Okay. If you can remember what that sounds like, it's like an office. Yeah, Richard, you know, love the comments always. Let's see here. Christina says, I think the freedom allows smaller companies to compete with those larger companies for talent also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And I wonder if smaller companies are not even aware of maybe the compliance issues.
Yep, certainly. I mean, that could very well be the case. But you know, I've always subscribed to this belief that you know, if you're a, and I'm going to wear my tax hat here and remove my mobility hat for a few minutes. You know, I've heard multiple people within various regulatory authorities say that, look, we recognize 100% compliance as a challenge. We want it, right? We want people to be 100% compliant, but we also don't like 0% compliance, right? We want people to be trending towards 100%. So you got to be on this journey of not being zero, get to that 50, and then get to the 100. Is that what's going to happen?
Is the
zero?
Are they going to show up and say, "Oh, you're trending correctly"? I've never heard compliance looked at as trending. You know, it's qualitative, not quantitative.
Yeah, it's not. But I think I've been part of multiple discussions with tax authorities where they've said, yeah, the fine may not be as severe this time, but if we come around in 2 years and you haven't fixed it, then maybe we won't be quite as lenient with you. So I think it's the intent, right? Yeah, we all need to be 100% compliance. That's what the laws are, at least within the tax world. But the reality is people kind of go across the spectrum and try to do what they can while still running their business.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the new normal from a compliance standpoint. We're all trying to work through this and get to where we want to be from a compliance standpoint. John Habanik saying, Rajiv, take the tax hat off and put on your Batman and Robin costume. Rajiv, I met you. The only other BAMM I came to, you were in costume. I'm slightly disappointed.
Yeah, I am in costume.
A different costume now.
I'm dressed like a true blue tax accountant.
Yes, he's Bruce Wayne today. No, that's great, John.
So just a little bit of trivia there. So when the group suggested that William and I do that, we all agreed to it, and then I think it was the day before the conference, and William and I were saying, well, we're not going to do it. That'd be stupid. Like we would lose all credibility in front of our fellow BAMM members. And we're like, yeah, we're not going to do it. Right? Literally 9 o'clock in the morning, we're not going to do it. I'm driving to a meeting. William calls me. It's about 12:30. He's like, Rajiv, I think we should do it. I'm like, where are we going to get these costumes from? This thing starts in like 15 hours. And he's like, we'll figure it out. And then literally an hour later, William and Helen Miracle and a bunch of other board members had tracked down the costumes for us, and we decided to do it. So I meet random strangers at different events who say, you're Robin, right? So it's going to stay with me for a while.
Do you regret that decision, or do you love it?
I don't regret it. I was super nervous about it, but I don't regret it. It was fun.
Isn't that funny when we think, oh my gosh, we're going to lose all credibility if we do something silly or, do something whimsical, and then we don't.
Yeah.
And in fact, it works the other way, doesn't it?
Makes us more human.
Makes us more human. Yeah, I love that. I think there's a life lesson in that. That's super cool. Thanks, John, for bringing that up. Hey, look, we got Singapore in the house. Kerwin.
Kerwin, my good friend.
He says Rajiv is an admired leader of mine, staying up for this. Thank you, Kerwin.
Kerwin is awesome.
Isn't Kerwin amazing?
He's one of the most inspiring people I've met in our industry, and I say that with a.
We love you, Kerwin.
Yeah, he's awesome.
We really
we wish you were here with us. I'm sure you could add quite a bit to the ESG discussion we're going to have later today.
Kerwin, let's give us one thought about ESG. Throw it in the comments. I'd love to know. Help us kind of shape the conversation here a little bit. Thank you, Kerwin, for joining. Hit that like button right now. Let people like Kerwin know that we are here doing it. Scott says it's hard to balance letting those that want to work from home and keeping the corporate culture strong. Interesting. Yep. In-person interaction is key to keeping many cultures strong. How does this play into the equation, Rajiv?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Look, I think if anyone that has worked in the Bay Area, I remember going to multiple meetings at my clients, ranging from Fortune 500 companies to those very, very fast and emerging startups. And I remember going for meetings in the middle of the week, and it would be a ghost town, right? So I think that has existed before, pre-pandemic. I think it's now catching on to just about everywhere. So I think there's a lesson on how these very big, very well-known branded companies have been able to keep their culture alive pre-pandemic. I think we just need to learn from it. I know we at KPMG are trying to figure that out. How do we keep our culture alive with our people when more than half of people are not sitting in an office working next to each other? We did build this incredible training center in Florida, where everyone that has gone to and come out of has said, I feel very closely associated with our culture. So I think there's different things that companies are doing. I know there's a few tech companies that have built their own. They're not necessarily a training center. It's a cultural center, right? You're trying to get people together for training,
right?
But then to get them to continue to believe in the value and the culture of the organization.
That's so interesting. And as we think about all this office space that we all have, right? And how do we repurpose this office space to meet the new needs of our organizations?
Yeah.
And cultural centers instead of conference rooms, are kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there's a wall, and I know people can't see it. There's a wall at the end of this conference room, and that's the end of the KPMG office. But literally, right next to this wall used to be my office up until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I know up until 2 years ago, we were looking to expand our offices because we were running out of space.
Right.
And now we've given up that space. My office is gone. I have a lot of memories there. Lots of my tchotchkes were there from BAMM and other events, which I had to unfortunately take back home. And my wife was very upset that
what's all this junk doing here? This is my tchotchkes.
This is my
memories, my mementos.
But yeah, I mean, that's what's happened. That's all gone away. And but we've repurposed this entire floor. This is where my entire team used to sit. We've repurposed it. It's a beautiful training center that we're going to use. So I think companies are looking and saying, maybe we do need to reevaluate our commercial real estate strategy, but we also need to reevaluate how we're going to use it. Is it truly going to be an area where people are going to hide in their cubes and not interact, or is it going to be, is it going to enable interaction with everyone in the workplace?
Yeah, it's interesting though. The prior, the workplaces that probably existed when you came into the workforce was really about separating the workers and giving them privacy.
Yeah.
Well, now we have that to the extreme
at home,
with work from home.
Respective homes.
And now it's about creating collaborative workspaces.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely something to think about for the future.
Very interesting. We got people checking in here. Richard, yes, 3:30. It's 3:30 in Singapore. Love Kerwin. Let's see. He says he's got a question. He says, a serious question. This is a serious program. He's got a question. He wants to know who pays the fuel bills.
Who pays the fuel bill?
I think he's saying from work from home. If you're working from home, if you work in an office, the electricity, I'm trying to make sense of Richard's question. Okay, this is like a full-time job. But no, if you work in an office, the electricity, aircon, everything is paid for by the company.
Yeah.
Is there any obligation? Is there any duty of care?
I think there are some rules out there, right? That I know certainly California has some rules out there that requires some sort of a reimbursement to their employees on some remote working allowance, if you will, or some sort of a reimbursement. But yeah, I mean, like I've done some analysis on my own, right? I'm not commuting in, so I'm saving on my gas or electricity costs because I drive an electric car. But what else am I saving on, right? I mean, am I eating lunch out every day? Am I, so you can run an analysis and come up with some sort of I'm saving this, but I'm spending
Right.
more on electricity. Maybe
Right.
I've increased my Wi-Fi speed. I think it's a trade-off, and I think I've heard of quite a few tech companies that have enabled some sort of a quarterly allowance for their employees to as a payment in lieu of work from home. But now I think that's changing because now the requirement is you got to be in at least 2-3 days a week. At least some of those companies are enabling that. So again, I think it's much like does your com get adjusted, right? It's
Right.
debatable. Similarly, it's debatable. Do you reimburse people for working from home?
Do you ever see compensation changing for in-office employees versus remote? Where they say, you know what, we're going to compensate you for coming into the office 5 days a week differently, maybe?
I've heard some theories being floated that
People don't like this idea. I throw it out there every once in a while just to get
I
my
think
hands
that
slapped.
there's some theories floated out there that if it's important for an organization to get their people in, are they going to incentivize them in different ways? Is it financially? Is it some other way? Right? Do you get first dibs on a bunch of different programs like leadership programs
Right.
that are available? There's different ways in how you can incentivize your people. Money is one of them certainly, but it could be more than money. Right? I don't know. Do I get to have lunch with my CEO once a quarter because I'm in the office 5 days a week? And is that worth something to someone? Right? So again, I think there's different ways in how companies can try.
Not in my company, but I think other companies, they might value lunch with the CEO. Yeah. This is interesting. Let's see here. People are saying, Rich saying, big deal right now in corporate housing. Should energy usage be capped? Should rates simply go up? Certainly gone crazy in Europe. It's a massive issue. I'm hearing this from my European friends out there saying energy is at a crisis level over there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know that some of us here in California are dealing with that on our own. We had some unusually warm weather last week, 100 plus degree weather.
Wow.
It was super hot. The air conditioning was cranked, and we had rolling blackouts for some parts of the Bay Area, which it's not something we're used to for the last 10-15 years. So
right.
I do think that I remember last week coming in an extra day just because I wanted to get away from home and be sitting in this cool air conditioned office of mine. So certainly it incentivized me to get out of my house.
I think that's a great segue back into the topic of the day, right? Which is sustainability.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here talking about. And when I go to Europe, I'm struck by the fact that this is what I tell people. I say, over here, I think we're leading when it comes to DE&I.
Yeah.
We're doing a great job with DE&I over here. It's front and center. We're talking about it. I sense that change is happening. We are not really in this country comparatively to, say, Europe, where I go occasionally. They are way ahead of us when it comes to ESG, when it comes to sustainability, environmentalism. I'll say the environmental aspect of it, I will say. And they're really talking about this in a serious way. And I think that and I have a theory about this. I'm really big on theories with no basis. I'm huge on it. I have a theory about this is that their air conditioning is not as good as ours.
Yeah.
And they feel it more. It's more of a present danger to them, climate change. In Texas, I mean, it's 105 degrees, but the air's on 72.
Yeah.
You don't feel it. You just don't go outside.
Yeah.
But there it's inescapable. And I wonder if you're talking about how California had 100-degree weather. Is it getting to the point now where we just can't escape this reality that we're in, that we can't just bury our head in the sand anymore around sustainability? It's becoming
and I think unfortunately for me, I'm in California, which is a very, very environment friendly state. So I don't see a lot of what happens. I mean, I see a little bit of it when I travel, but I'm sort of in this echo chamber, if you will, of California, where we seem to be doing all the right things. We seem to be very focused on the environment, but I mean, it's a real issue, right? It's a real issue, maybe not for our generation, but for our kids' generation and beyond, right? I mean, we need to do things differently, right? To preserve this planet and to make sure that it continues to be as green as it needs to be, right?
Yeah, and I think that's always the challenge I have. I mean, just being candid, right? Is like when I travel to sustainability meetings, I feel this guilt,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, what did I do to get here?
Yeah.
I got on a plane, a lot of Uber rides,
Yeah.
whatever. And my carbon footprint expands to come to these, and I feel guilty about it. I just hope that what I take away is impactful and can kind of offset that. Kerwin's weighing in here. Kerwin always delivers. The culture of collaboration has to persevere, whether live or virtual, holding self and team more accountable to be more inclusive so we sustain vibrance of our engagements, whether digital or face to face.
I mean, I think Kerwin's been a role model of that for many years, right? He has led the mobility program of one of the larger Fortune, 500, 250 company, headquartered in Silicon Valley up until recently, now headquartered in Texas. His teams all over the world, right?
Right.
And he's leading it from Singapore,
Singapore.
probably staying up till 2, 3 o'clock every morning in Singapore.
With incredible influence.
Yeah. With a high degree of energy every time you
Yes.
speak to him, right? Whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, he's got the same level of energy that he would have at 9 o'clock. So I think he's truly been a trailblazer when it comes to enabling this very global view of mobility and how to enable success for teams remotely, right? So I think there's something, and I know he's written about it, and I've read about it, that it's incredible what's been done out there.
It is incredible, Kerwin, and I applaud you. And I can't wait to get to Singapore to see you and experience it. But you're quite an inspiration for all of us. So thank you so much for popping in the comments there. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah,
I'll be honest
we
with
should
you.
get
I need to
something to eat.
sustain myself. I need some sustenance. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Rajiv, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for these gorgeous accommodations here at KPMG. I can't wait to get some of the content here. You want to leave people maybe with just a final thought?
Yeah, just I think my personal passion is part of the ESG is the S, frankly, as important as the E and the G is. I'm a huge advocate for D, E, and I. I know in that journey when companies started, there was a lot of focus on D, and then we added the I, which I think is the right thing, and now we've got the E, which is equity, right? Which means it's got to be fair to everyone, right? Not just to one group, whether it's a represented group or an underrepresented group. So it's a personal passion of mine. I think the mobility industry can play a huge role in this. I know of mobility leaders here in the Bay Area that have spoken to their CDOs and said, we'd like to play a more active role in our D&I strategy. So I encourage all of you, whether you're on the corporate side or on the service provider side, let's fly that flag. We have a role to play in this D&I journey beyond the whole ESG discussion.
I love it. I can't wait to learn more about the interesting ideas. It's always really great cutting edge ideas coming out of BAMM. So I can't wait to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Rajiv.
Ben. Yeah, great job.
Thanks for being
great
here.
Great job. Yeah, this was fun.